30th. It is 9:50 p.m. Currently living in Beverly Hills, California. I moved here around August of last year. I was in an Airbnb for a bit, and even before that, I was like back and forth between Scottsdale and also LA. I had a lot of clients here, and I was like just really trying to find what was going to work best for me. I was going through a situation, relationship wise, and trying to just focus like more on myself and wanted to see like who I was because I feel like I lost myself for a couple of years, and it's not like as bad as like most people would actually think. Like I never went in the deep end of like doing anything bad. I just kind of lost motivation for the gym. I lost motivation for a lot of things. I got really comfortable with like the money that I was making, the stuff that I've already basically accomplished, and I was essentially just like way too comfortable in relationship where I lived and the things that I was doing. And then I came to realize like the one thing that actually changed my life for the better was in 2022, December 2nd, I believe was the date that this event happened. And actually a month prior to that, so I'll backtrack a little bit. I got invited to a mixer that my friend Faz and Luca were hosting. It was the day after the Pudgy Penguins event in Miami. They were doing, I think it was either a yacht event or just an event that they had like a singer come out, they performed or whatever, and then just it was like an NFT launch party essentially. So it was the day after that, and I went to this mixer. It was like maybe 9 p.m. on Miami night. And so basically just getting the freaking day started at that point, living in Miami or being in Miami at least. And so I think that was like really the turning point because funny enough, like I met probably 10 to 15 people that I actually spoke with through Instagram. And I actually had a bigger platform at the time, but my account got banned. So that is what it is with that at least. But I met, yeah, like 10 to 15 people. And actually one of those people that I met, which I actually knew from Instagram, is my roommate now. He's one of my roommates. And then also one of the other guys that I met who was actually helping host the event, his name is Faz. He introduced me to another one of my roommates, crazy enough, and that's Armin. So I met Mikey Cass, and then also I met Armin Najad, and both are my roommates now, and we're living in California right now at the moment. And what I failed to realize was getting out in the world, like, and I'm saying that as like personal brand, posting videos on social media, basically just getting myself out there more. I didn't realize the impact that that would have, not just like on your business, but also on you as a person. That builds credibility, that builds trust, that builds respect. It does something that a lot of people will lack. And so I'm going to use my friend Kenny, for example. Kenny has been living in Houston for the past 4 years or 5 years, I believe. And Kenny is an amazing person. Like he's like one of my best friends, if not like my best friend. I trust him with like, everything that I would do. And, we have incredible trust with each other. So recently and this also correlates to like the whole Miami thing, but recently, like I was back in Miami and I said, Kenny, like I really want you to come out and I want you to kind of see the life that I would live, the people that I meet. And all this stemmed from going to Miami in 2022, meeting the people that I knew from Instagram. And I met a lot of other incredible people that actually I work with to this day. Like I went there and I knew people. And then now I'm literally working with a solid amount of people to this day that I met. And I'm actually helping one of the friends that I met there sell one of his businesses for a decent amount of money too. And so an example, just going back to the Kenny story, Kenny, he met a lot of my friends in Miami. I want to say probably a solid like 15 people, I'd say. We were going to dinners like back to back to back. We were hanging out with my buddy George. We went to dinner with George, and then we also met another one of my e-commerce friends, which I never met before, but I've spoken to him online a handful of times. And then after that, we went to go smoke some hookah and hang out with Samir, and then a few other guys that were at Balans at the time. And the really like important thing or important message that I'd say he learned, which this is kind of like what I learned, was you need to build yourself a personal brand, whether it's a small percentage of like what people are doing from like just, getting out there to the mass appeal, or whether it's just building like a personal brand as an influencer or creator, or building a personal brand as in like building trust with other creators or other people that are killing it or on the same level as you or even, more powerful than you in the space. And by doing this, it not only just like boosts your trust and credibility, like I was saying earlier, but also it really opens your eyes to so many different things, so many new opportunities, so many new ideas. And it's a lot of this kind of stuff that like you can't really think about the kind of stuff that you would hear or even understand like a lot of things that you would talk about in instances like this. And like even that just like with meeting new people is you don't really understand the power of networking, and you're gonna be hearing so many stories, so many like new things that you're like, holy crap, like this is, making me rethink everything. And I really kind of go back to the whole Miami story for me in 2022. The moment that I went out of my comfort zone and actually stepped foot into like, all right, this is a big step for me. I was 16 or 17 at the time. I want to say I was 17 because that was December 2022, and I believe I turned 16 in February of that year. And it was like a big like step for me. I was 17 years old. I'm going to this event with like ballers, freaking crazy people. And even though I was successful at the time, COVID was a freaking beautiful place. And well, in terms of e-commerce, but maybe not the status for the world. But it really opened my eyes from my experience, and also opened my friend Kenny's eyes, because right after we went to Miami, we either came to LA or came to Scottsdale at some point. And then from there, we went to, oh, no, sorry. We went from Miami, and then I think we split ways for a bit. And then we were in LA, and then from LA, I think we were hanging out, and then we went back to Houston, and then I ended up just flying to Costa Rica and he hung out with me in Costa Rica. But like after we went to Scottsdale, Miami, and also LA, like he has already spoken to a lot of people, which really opened his eyes a lot. And like it's also helped him build a lot of very, very strong network, or very strong relationships with like very, very powerful people and people that are in the space or like-minded as he is. And so it opened his eyes a lot, realizing that there's only so much you can do in your hometown, so much you can do while you're, sitting in your apartment. If you're still in your hometown, if you're still at your parents' house, you can still travel and meet new people. But I don't know. I think it's just you get stuck, you get yourself in a rut, and it could be different for some people, but you get yourself in a rut, and it's hard to think like outside of the box on so many new things, because being able to network and just pick somebody's brain, which I can also bring in a story that recently just happened. It's a very powerful thing, because it's not something that you can do if you don't travel, if you don't step out of your comfort zone. And like honestly, even if you can't afford, if I were to do it again, I would literally do everything that I possibly can. I'd watch every single video that I can, try to meet every single body that I can, and never act like I'm like the strongest in the room, or I'm a professional, whatever I'm doing. And I always want to act like the dumb person, or at least I would. And that way I can learn and absorb as much information as possible. And so one thing that really opened his eyes is just the stories and hearing, this side of this person, that side of that person, and then also ideas that he could apply to his business that would propel him to do something new, restructure whatever he's doing, or maybe like, launch like an offer or an info product like he's actually doing now. And I'm also doing the same. I have a agency course, which actually is listed at $1,000 a month. And funny enough, like that is only set that price because I want to make sure that I can funnel in people that are actually willing to invest $1,000 into their like into them, basically into them building a business. And I have refunded every single person that has ever purchased a PDF from me, a course from me, or any other like products that I'm running, or like info products that I'm running. And the reason that I do this is it's really just because like I want to make sure that I can build that audience and build their trust, make sure I can have the right person that is buying my course or buying whatever program I'm running to run. And I don't care to make any money off of it. That's why I literally refund everything. And maybe at some point I'll probably get banned from Stripe at that point. But until then, I'm going to keep continuing this. I've sold 18 programs so far from agency course. So that has grossed $18,000. It's like 18.79. I don't know. It's like either 17.8K or like 18,000. something like that. And then yeah, I've literally refunded everybody, and it's just funny to think that like people will go on Twitter and even rant about like, bro, you're just selling a course, you're selling out, you're only here to just make money off of us. Which I mean, in a sense, that does like that's correct, but also like I'm also here to provide value, and my value or my time and my experience is valuable. So putting a price tag to what I'm offering at the front end makes sense, but also like I've already made the money in e-commerce. I've already made the money in my agency, and my agency still is making a lot of money to this day. And I don't care to make any more money off of selling like $1,000 course. And the insight on like how I make money off of that is actually on the affiliate offers. But that's just, me digressing a bit. Back to the Miami story, for me at least, I didn't realize how comfortable, how stupid I was for kind of just staying in the same place that I was at. I was living in Houston at the time, and I had a relationship that was, it was rocky. We had our good moments and whatever. And I was really focusing on myself, like throughout this entire time, kind of just finding who I was. I had like my moments in the in the industry, and like I had my 3 month, 4 month freaking motivational periods where I would just get really big and start posting on social media, and then I would just lose interest because it just was like pretty repetitive, and I just didn't really feel like doing it again. Which, looking back, I'm glad that I did that because I've been able to learn like my true values and what I really wanted to do. And getting out of that relationship that I was also in has made me realize like what I was lacking, and also like what I look for in new people, including like business relationships too. You want to make sure that you pick the right person, and also you want to make sure like you can trust, like people that you can trust. But back to Miami, I I met incredible people, and I realized like there is so much more to what this world has to offer. And it really comes down from like just getting out in the world and actually like not being a freaking douchebag. Just be honest, be a nice guy, and I promise you, like the world will freaking reward you. Like a lot of the success that I have has stemmed from, and a lot of the success that I have to this day has honestly stemmed from like what I did by just going out in that environment and meeting these new people, realizing that there's people making way more money than me, like 10 times more than I was making. Cause I think I was doing like 100 grand a month at that point. But I mean, it was like up and down. Maybe I make more, maybe I make less, but like, I just say on average, like about $100,000 a month. And I was also running mentalities ads at the time too. And so that was fun. But pretty much following that, in 2023, I went to Scottsdale, Arizona, and it was a very similar thing. It was a networking event essentially that my friend and good friend of mine, Noah Brewer, was hosting. I knew a decent amount of people already kind of going into that because I wanted to like kind of get more into the world of e-commerce. And like the thing is, I've been in e-commerce for a very long time. I started in 2017. I was freaking 13 years old. And like since then, I've obviously learned a lot, and I've realized like I've made a lot of mistakes in the past, and I think that learning and making the mistakes, I've learned a lot, and I've learned values of who I am. And I think the most important message that I'm trying to portray here is that like you guys need to get out of your comfort zone. You guys need to travel the world, whether you have the money or not. Just take a gamble upon yourself, because I promise you, whenever you're meeting these new people, you it opens your mind to so many new possibilities, so many new things that you'd be able to achieve, and you may not have the drive or the motivation to if you're just like, sitting at your house, if you're just locked away doing your own thing. You're trying to push yourself, but it's just, you get to a limit that you can't continue to grow. And so that's why it's so important to build these relationships, because now like if like, everything were to freaking crumble for me, worst comes to worst, I would 100% have a solid 20, 30 people that I could like fall back onto. Not that I would need that, or not that that would be the case, but it's just like the trust that I built with these people and the power that I have in my network. So you guys need to really focus on building relationships with people, whether it's, an audience or it's just like building relationships